Trust me, Raider Nation, I want to report positive news. I want to just talk about how everything is going great with the Las Vegas Raiders, but unfortunately, that is not the case. We have some new developments with Josh Jacobs. He had a lot to say to even fans on social media directly. The man is frustrated about his contract with the Las Vegas Raiders, and Darren Waller and Derek Carr sent a little message to Raiders fans as they worked out in Las Vegas. It's the off season. It's the moment when it's all dead and there's not much going on until training camp, but you got players training with each other even if they're no longer on the same team, and that is Darren Waller and Derek Carr. It was so funny to see this on Instagram. Carr posting this story. You can see Waller there. It seems like they were just working out. And what makes this even more intriguing for Raiders fans is because we know there had been rumors, false rumors apparently, that people have spread about these two guys. People have tried to claim that Darren Waller does not like Derek Carr. They don't even talk. I remember people saying that in 2021 when Waller had the IT band injury and was not coming back and able to play after that Thanksgiving game against the Dallas Cowboys. And then this past season in 2022, the genius Josh McDaniels season, not the Rich Bisaccia season, people tried to say that they have a problem with each other. And actually, when Derek Carr had his kind of breakdown after the Colts game when the Raiders lost to freaking Jeff Saturday, a man who's never coached professional football, Derek Carr got emotional. You know, he sort of teared up a little bit. And it was crazy because people like Vincent Bosingio of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, who seem really tight with Josh McDaniels and Mark Davis, they get a lot of exclusive comments and always get the first question at every press conference. It's quite convenient. But this guy, when Derek Carr broke down, tried to imply that Derek Carr was maybe questioning Darren Waller and Darren Waller's commitment, saying that he's sort of milking an injury. That was the implication there. And this guy just made this sort of conclusion when now that we've looked at the whole entire season and everything that's happened with the Raiders, it's very clear that when Derek Carr was getting emotional, upset in that press conference, that he's talking about the coaching staff, mainly Josh McDaniels. I mean, you could just use your common sense, logic, and reasoning, especially based off everything that happened afterwards and after that game. You know who he's talking about. And Carr had to go out of his way to clear the air. Waller even made a comment saying that Derek and him talked about that emotional press conference, and he talked about how they're friends and they worked with each other for several years. And it was just crazy that they had to clear the air because people wanted to just pin the criticism that Carr had on somebody else other than Josh McDaniels, and Darren Waller was the easiest target. And that is what that publication did. So they had these rumors out here making it seem like the guys do not like each other. And it turns out they like each other enough that even though they are on different teams, they are still working out. And look, Josh McDaniels, according to Kelsey Plum, was not invited to Darren Waller's wedding. So I think something that these two guys might have in common now that they're no longer a part of the Las Vegas Raiders, maybe they don't like the guy who's primarily in control of the Raiders right now, and that is Josh McDaniels. Before Waller was traded too, and he was still thinking maybe there's hope that he's going to stay on the Raiders, but he has since said that ever since McDaniels and Ziegler showed up, it seemed like they never really wanted him and they'd been trying to get rid of him consistently. So he's not too surprised about it. But after Carr was released, this was a pretty interesting question he was asked.
If we sat down 7 months ago and I said to you, you know what, you just brought in Devontae Adams, you got a new head coach, Chandler Jones comes in, but your quarterback's going to be benched with a couple of games left in the season and you'll be looking for a new one in the offseason. What would you have said to me?
I would have thought you were crazy, for sure.
It just shows how unexpected all of this is. People thought, everything was going to go well with Josh McDaniels, Derek Carr, and Darren Waller, and we would have this elite offense with freaking Waller, Adams, Carr using his football IQ to make adjustments, but that's not going to happen anymore. The Raiders will have to move forward, but these two guys will still haunt the team this year. That's what we're going to be taking a look at. We're going to be looking at the Raiders team. We're going to be looking at Michael Mayer, Austin Hooper, seeing, hey, are these guys really an upgrade over Darren Waller? And obviously with the quarterback situation, we're going to be paying attention to Carr along with the Raiders QBs this season. And another man we have to pay attention to is none other than Josh Jacobs, and he tweeted out, "Bad business on my birthday." Actually, on my birthday, June 20th. That was my birthday present, is realizing that the Raiders do not have a stable relationship with their star running back. Oh, and by the way, he's the best running back in the NFL, not just the best Raiders running back, but in the whole entire league. The Raiders are struggling to figure out if they want to pay this guy. We know they declined his fifth-year option, had him play in the preseason against the Jacksonville Jaguars. that made things a little awkward between Jacobs and the Raiders, and Jacobs went on to ball out, and it just looks really clear, and we never expected the Raiders to pay big money for a running back, and many people were surprised they even tagged the guy. And there's this whole debate, and what is happening now is Jacobs is sort of getting into it with fans. We're going to show you some stuff that maybe you have not seen yet. It's outside of Twitter, but we have this tweet here, bad business, and then Richie Incognito saying, pay the man, which is, quite funny to see Richie Incognito pop back in. But other players are sort of pounding the table for Josh Jacobs, wanting him to get sort of a long-term contract because he was the #1 running back in the NFL. And look, people try to act like, oh, he's been injured, he always battles injuries. When you really look at the numbers and just look through his stats, you know for a fact that in 4 seasons, he's only missed 5 or 6 games. 5 or 6 games in 4 seasons for the style of running back he is and how he gets the lion's share of carries. It's never a committee with Josh Jacobs. He's a bell cow. That's very impressive to me, to only miss that amount of games over 4 years. So I don't think the guy has as many injury concerns as people like to say. And they got Max Crosby, best running back on the planet. When Brian Baldy, the Baldy breakdowns, posted this piece on Josh Jacobs, and Crosby's trying to hype him up and say, hey, if I have any sway in the organization at all whatsoever between Genius Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, can you please pay the best running back in the NFL? Can you please do that? Is that going to be okay? And Josh Jacobs here, I appreciate the love, Baldy. And Baldy is kind of giving him some respect here. And we've known about the recent posts, especially if you follow this channel, Jacobs, saying that we got to do it for the ones after us, almost implying that he's willing to hold out to save the running back market for the future. And also him reposting Jim Trotter, who is talking about how the running backs are severely underpaid compared to other positions in the NFL. But I want to show you guys something quite interesting. Now, there's this older post on Josh Jacobs' Instagram, and another Raiders fan, Nick, hit me up and showed me this. So there was actually a conversation between Jacobs and some fans in the comments here, and this is a post that's from 2 to 3 weeks ago, actually May 25th. Now, it's just Jacobs showing that he's the rushing first down leader. That's the original post here. But when you look through some of these comments, you have right here, this comment says, please sign that man, we need you. I truly believe this year is our year, man. Whoa, bro, I want what you're drinking and I want what you're smoking. If we got Jimmy G and Josh McDaniels, I don't think this year is our year at all. I'm sorry. But he says, you fought so hard last season and we need you. And then in these replies is where you get a back and forth with Jacobs and some other people. There's this guy, DeAndre Jones, saying that we can't afford him at the price he's demanding. When, what does this dumbass know? This dumbass doesn't know the freaking price that he's demanding. They have no idea. Jacobs has never said a number publicly. And so Jacobs is rightly frustrated with this guy and says, what price am I demanding since you think you got the answers? Oh my goodness. And this is actually Josh Jacobs. And this just shows how frustrated he is with the situation where these fans are talking about stuff that they do not know about to him, and they think they can talk down to him even though they have no idea what they are talking about. And this guy goes back and forth and says all he does is eat and sleep Raiders stuff, which doesn't really mean anything. I mean, Jacobs is actually on the team. Obviously, he's more aware of his own contract situation than whatever you could look up on the internet. And he's saying there's reports that are saying he doesn't like the contract. But here's what's really interesting, and here is where I think you need to read between the lines as to what Jacobs is actually saying. So this guy is basically trying to imply that the Raiders offered Jacobs a contract at a number that he does not like. Now, Jacobs is telling him that he has no idea and is completely making this crap completely out of his ass. And so Jacobs asks him, what have they offered me since you know? Now, here's the thing. We don't have any confirmation at all that the Raiders have offered Jacobs any long-term contract. They may have not. That is totally a possibility. And it would actually make sense that they did not offer him a long-term deal, because recently, when speaking to the media, general manager Dave Ziegler said that he values Josh Jacobs, and that's why they gave him the franchise tag, because they value him that much, meaning he wants him to play on the franchise tag. That is what that means, and he thinks that the 1-year deal at $10.2 million should be good enough for Josh Jacobs. Obviously, Josh Jacobs disagrees because he has not signed that franchise tag. But if the Raiders are just offering this franchise tag right here, waiting for Jacobs to sign it, why would they also offer him a long-term contract, right? So it seems like, based on Jacobs getting frustrated with this guy is claiming that they offered Jacobs a long-term contract and he doesn't like it. But Jacobs is saying, hey, what have they offered me since you know? And then the guy doesn't say anything, and he says, exactly, you don't know shit. You on the outside looking in, assuming just sit back and shut the F up. Oh my goodness, Josh Jacobs is getting heated in this moment right now. But look, I think if you're reading between the lines, if you want to try to find some meaning from what Josh Jacobs is saying, it's obviously frustration. And it seems like the Raiders only want him to play on this tag. Perhaps they have not offered him any long-term number. And maybe if there was a long-term number offered, it would be a good starting point for Jacobs to negotiate a brand new contract. So this guy goes on again and he tries to sound a little more, sympathetic to Josh Jacobs, saying that he just follows the media and he just wants him to stay. And we are so close, which I don't think Josh Jacobs believes we're even that close. Remember, Jacobs said he wouldn't mind playing on the tag if they put more pieces around him. I don't think Jimmy G and Brian Hoyer were enough pieces around Josh Jacobs. And so this guy is saying, hey, they need to be guaranteeing you the bag, blah, blah, blah. It's Raiders no matter what, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. This guy's not that important here. Jacobs is the main important one. And Jacobs is saying, once again, you're assuming LOL and you're wrong. The problem is that you don't know. Stop trying to sound smart by sounding stupid. So Jacobs is just getting so heated with this guy. What this guy is doing, I feel like, is he's getting a response. And so he's continuing to go back and forth, even though he really doesn't have anything to say and is not really contributing to this conversation at all. And it's kind of unfortunate because this guy is in a conversation with Jacobs. He could be asking direct questions so we could find out more about the situation. Like, he could straight up ask Jacobs, yeah, have the Raiders offered you a long-term contract, right? Have they at all? Yes or no? And maybe Jacobs would answer the situation, but instead this guy goes on ranting and we really don't get anything useful in terms of direct responses because of this. But the guy admits he's wrong. He's saying he's not as stupid as he must sound, blah, blah, blah. And I want you to make the bag with us only, blah, blah, blah. Jacobs, kind of a cryptic response. No smoke, but just wait back and see. If I need to tell the real truth, I will in time. I will in time. So if he needs to tell the real truth, he will in time. And I don't know what's going to happen here. And so to me, if we're looking at that comment, it seems like there is a situation that Jacobs is envisioning where he may have to put the Raiders on blast. I mean, that's what he's saying. If he needs to tell the whole truth, the real truth, he will in time. So if this thing goes south, which it seems like it is, if the Raiders are not going to sign this guy to a long-term contract, this guy does not want to play on the tag, seems like this is going to go south. And if that's the case, seems like Jacobs is going to say what he thinks and drop a bombshell and say what's going on about with the Raiders and McDaniels and why he's not getting paid and yada, yada, yada. So expect some fireworks soon. The Raiders and Jacobs have until, I believe, July 17th to get something done, or else Jacobs will be forced to play on the tag. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen here. Doesn't seem like Jacobs wants to play on the tag, and it just seems like we're experiencing this pattern. We keep having this pattern, and I want to say a bunch of positive things. And yes, there are some new players who are positive about the current coach, Jacoby Myers, because he knows him, right? And he just got paid by him. You got some of these guys who are positive. Crosby is locked into a long-term deal, so he's very positive about the current coach. But this is going to be the third star, potentially, if this goes south, which seems like it's headed south. This is going to be the third star that Josh McDaniels has alienated from this football team. Whether or not it's the right decision, there is an argument in all three cases. There's an argument that maybe you could find better value for the money that you're paying Waller since he battled injuries the past 2 years. There's an argument that Carr is not the correct scheme fit for Josh McDaniels. There's an argument that you maybe want to have a running back committee rather than a bell cow like Josh Jacobs, even though you had him be the bell cow last year and he was number one in the NFL. Yes, there are valid arguments for all those football decisions, but this is something unusual that I haven't seen even in the previous Gruden era. I haven't seen so many players make a comment here and there on social media trying to say something about this team and almost trying to alert the fans that things aren't right. And look, Davante Adams, even though he wants to walk back his comments from the Ringer article, he did the same thing. Just last month. So we keep having all of these people sort of rubbed the wrong way by Josh McDaniels. And I also think the biggest issue with not paying somebody like Josh Jacobs, I get the argument that maybe a running back committee is the right way to go, but the biggest problem that does for your football team is when you got a guy who took a risk. He took a risk on the pretty much a 1 year deal last year, the 4-year contract, rookie contract. He could have been, not optimistic about playing, but he wanted to be out there, and he balled out on a prove it deal, and not only balled out to be top 10, top 5, like literally he was the best running back in the NFL. So when you don't reward someone for taking a huge risk, balling out, proving everybody wrong, when you don't reward someone for that, that sends a message to the rest of the players on your team that, hey, even if you do what Josh Jacobs did, unfortunately, even if you want to stay with the Raiders, you may not be rewarded or compensated for that. So I think it just sends a negative message throughout the locker room. But it seems like, based on these patterns and these trends that we've witnessed, doesn't seem like many people care about the tone of the locker room, especially when it comes to the coaching staff for the Las Vegas Raiders. So you guys let me know how you think this is going to end. We'll keep you up to date on anything happening. It is slow as hell right now. It is summer. We should all be relaxing. But hey, training camp is just around the corner, and the first preseason game is like, what, 53 days away? 53 days away, so everything is going to start happening. It's all right around the corner. Make sure you subscribe to get some more Raiders updates from me, WiFiWillie. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.